right. Here we are, 10 o'clock, and I am live. Oh my God. I'm still trying to figure this Zoom thing out. It's crazy making. Anyway, today I want to talk about being the CEO of your business. So, the reason I bring this up, and I just actually got off of a call with one of my clients, and we were talking about CEO skills. The CEO of the business is the person who has the dream, has the vision, right? A CEO knows the numbers, has the bigger plan. The CEO does those very high level interactions with clients and customers and collaborators, right? The CEO is the visionary and they delegate everything possible. A lot of small business owners don't spend any time in CEO mindset, right? They don't put their little CEO hat on every week or at all. And there's problems. So let's talk about the problems first of all. If you aren't working as CEO, so I think last week I did a live and I talked about the three levels of working in your business. So there is at the very bottom, you work as employee. And if you are your own boss, if you are a business of one or maybe two, we tend to spend a lot of time working as employee because you are it, right? You got to do it. You got to do all of the production and all of the back end and everything, all of the implementation. However, if you get trapped in the employee, what happens is we get caught in the taskiness of the business, right? So we get caught in the weeds. This is where the to-do list starts to take over. It can lead to overwhelm. It can lead to what I want to call short-sightedness in the business, right? So if we're so focused on delivering, say, to our customer that we're not thinking about the next customer or the customer 6 months from now, or the longer cycle, then we're actually not going to be doing the work to build the business, keep the business consistent, right? So employee working, like when you're working only employee and no CEO time, businesses tend to be boom or bust, right? We do this roller coaster like, oh my gosh, I'm working so hard. I'm working so hard. I'm so busy. I'm so busy. This contract ends or this project ends or whatever it is, this thing I worked on so hard ends. And then, poof, oh my gosh, now I've got nothing again. And I got to work hard and build and get busy. And then, poof, right? So the income cycle does this too, right? So this is where it gets really stressful to be an entrepreneur. Second level of working is manager, right? We talked about this as well. If you're the manager, your vision of what's happening is a little higher up. You're not at ground level. You're maybe 300 feet up. You know what needs to be done on the projects. You got your projects laid out for you. You're monitoring the timelines. You're looking at the timelines. So you have a little bit longer run, right? A little longer view of the projects. Managers responsible, I think, for company culture, right? So what kind of company do you want to create? What kind of interactions do you want to support? So when I owned my coffee shop, I wanted to be a knowledgeable, really have warm customer service. But I was also very committed to my employees being educated about coffee. I didn't want them to be the coffee shop employee where they know nothing about the product that they're selling, right? So I was absolutely committed to my employees being very, very knowledgeable so that when my customer came in, they felt like they were going to get a knowledgeable answer. They were going to get a real answer. They weren't going to get somebody that says, well, I don't know, or make something up, right? So my experience was like I was giving them the truest experience of a great cup of coffee that I could, right? So that was part of the culture. Well, that was my manager self implementing that, right? Creating that. The manager in a business delegates and trains, right? So they know how to do the job. They can train somebody to do the job. They delegate as much as possible, but they're also supportive, right? So it's a great manager that jumps in and says, okay, I see that you've got a lot to do. How can we do this differently? How can we make this easier? And we get to do that for ourselves too, right? So periodically, again, boy, I realize I got out in the sun a little bit too much this week. Okay. So again, even for me, I look at my task list and I start to go, oh my gosh, I got so much to do. How am I going to do this? And I take a big deep breath. Manager self steps in and says, okay, so what don't I need to be doing? How can I delegate? What needs to be easier? What am I making hard? And then finally, we get up to the CEO level. Now, again, this is where I think a lot of small business owners are missing the most critical piece, which is to be the CEO. If you have a hobby business, you're not spending any time at CEO level. Right. I had a mentor, a coach that I first worked with. She is amazing. Some of you may know Suzanne Evans, but she says, are you a hoe or are you a beau? Are you a hobby owner or are you a business owner? Well, this is the distinction. Are you putting in time as CEO? So CEO, 30,000-foot view, they know the numbers, they have a plan, they tell the manager what the plan is, the manager flushes out the steps in the plan, and the employee implements the plan. That's kind of how we work. So what happens if you're not spending any time as CEO? I talked a little bit, employee, you're on this arc, right? You're on the roller coaster. You're just implementing. You're in overwhelm. You're in like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do next. Okay, so here's a big one. If you don't know, if you are stuck in confusion, you're operating from employee level. Take a big deep breath. Let's up level. Okay. What happens if you're spending too much time at manager level? Well, you have visions, like you know what a plan is, and you're breaking the plan into steps and you're following the steps, but you're not necessarily connected to the why. You're not necessarily connected to the bigger vision. You are not letting yourself be the front person. A manager is not the visionary, right? So I'm an Apple user. I'll just tell you, I know how to operate PCs. I have one. I'm an Apple user. Steve Jobs was the Apple visionary, right? We bought Apple products because Steve Jobs got out and pitched this little thing, right? He pitched the Mac. Actually drove from California into Reno to get my very first iMac because you could not get them in California, right? You could not get them in the Bay Area. That's how much of a Mac person I was. That's how much I believed and bought into Steve Jobs' vision. Well, we bought the Apple dream because of Steve Jobs. We didn't buy it because Tim Cook was a great manager, right? Tim Cook was his number two, his COO. We still don't really believe Tim Cook as much. He's learning to be that visionary. He's had to step up and, like really step up his skills to be even a quarter of what Steve Jobs was in that visionary role, because Steve Jobs is no longer with us, right? He was forced to up-level his skills. But that's the difference. Tim Cook is still that operations. He's still that back end. We don't buy the Tim Cooks, we buy the Steve Jobs. That's the CEO. That's the inspiration. It's the person that keeps us all going. So what do you do, right? As a small business owner, what do you do? Well, here's the first thing you have to do. And this is the first thing I tell my employee or all of my my clients to do, is to pencil into your calendar, block it off a minimum of 2 hours a week for CEO time. And what are you doing in CEO time? Well, you are looking at your dream. You're looking at your bigger vision goals. Am I on track for 90 days? Am I on track for a year? Am I on track for 3 years? Maybe you even have a 5 year vision. How is what is happening right now contributing to that vision of what I want in 90 days, in a year, in 3 years? You are looking at your overall marketing plan and your strategy, right? You're doing analysis. You are reaching out to those high level contacts. As a sole business owner, a lot of the people I work with, sales is a dirty word. We just have issues around the word sales. We have issues around sales conversations. But when you are your own business, when you are employee number one of two, three, four, um, often you're still in the sales role. Like it has to be you. They're buying you. Your clients, your customers are buying you and your vision, not your admins, right? Not your marketing persons. This is why it's CEO work. So CEO time is designating, who do I need to call? What are my strategic, who are my strategic reach outs? What do I need to be doing networking wise? What do I need to be doing to get in front of the people that I need to speak to, right? That's CEO planning time. And you're going to drive sales time, right? I didn't talk about sales. Sales happens at every level, but your CEO time is going to drive you actually marking out an hour a day for sales activities. That's CEO time. It's the growth of your business. You're going to make sure that you're networking with the right people. That's CEO mentality, right? You don't see the CEO of a big corporation hanging out a lot. They do, right? They do rub shoulders with, but they're not hanging out with the blue collar worker. They're not at that level. They're at this level. They need to hang out with people who are thinking and operating at this level, right? So I'm going to get a little woo woo and just say, there's energetics of working as CEO that you can't achieve if you're working at worker bee level, right? Queen bee, worker bee, big difference. So carve the time out. Do 2 hours a week of actual high level strategy and thinking and planning in your business. This includes doing some visioning, right? So this is where we really get into like the woo manifestation time. This is where we get into the visioning stuff. I'm not a vision boarder myself, but this is when you build your vision board. It's actually CEO time. Right. I actually gave one of my clients this week the assignment of sitting down and spending quiet time feeling what it's going to feel like to be her in a year, right? Like really bringing that energy in. Like, what does she feel like? What's her day look like? What is she doing? What is she eating first thing in the morning? What is she doing? What kind of clothes is she wearing? What is she seeing? What are her kids saying? What are they all eating for breakfast? Like the whole day, you have to go through that process. You have to make it comfortable, because if the CEO has cooked up a vision, and I'll just, I want $1 million business, but the body, the person that you're currently operating from, who kind of works between manager and employee, is not comfortable with this vision, then your fears are naturally going to pull you away from it, right? Our fears are going to say, but, oh, that's scary. I don't know that. Anything that we don't know is scary. So, ooh, it's scary. I don't know that. And it's naturally going to pull you away from it. So you want to be CEO. You want to have that visionary time. You want to put it in your calendar. Make sure, like I said, that you're doing an hour of sales a day as CEO time, and 2 hours a week of just making sure that your vision's on track, that you're clear, that you're connected to your why behind, like, what does $1 million do? Why $1 million? Why not $500,000? Why not $100,000? What's it do for your life? What's it really going to do? How does that really feel? How does that really impact your life and your family and your faith? Does it impact your fitness? Those are, by the way, the 4S. That's another talk. Um, but like, really get in touch and get very, very clear on what your life like that looks like. And then bring that in, right? You really need to be operating from that person that's already achieved that in order to get there, which seems a little counterintuitive, but it is unfortunately how it is. Create that time, create the vision, connect with it. If you journal, this is a great journaling technique. I'm not a journaler. I like to just sit and daydream. Daydream, I'm sorry, is a business tool. When you use it correctly, daydreaming is a business tool because it gives us that vision. It gives us that connection to that vision. It gives us the clarity about how that feels right now. What part of me right now is already there? Right. So those are some tools that you can use to shift yourself into CEO. Number one, though, absolutely, you must put it in your calendar. You must have that strategic time, that big high level view. Like, take yourself out of your business and look down on it. Right. So if you were evaluating somebody else's business and giving them an outside perspective, what would you say about what they accomplished last week versus what their goals are? What kind of grade would you give them? And then give yourself that grade, give yourself that feedback, and then take it and translate it into, okay, well, what am I committing to this week? What am I committing to this month? Right? So that's kind of CEO work. That's the good stuff. All right. So as always, I am going to pop off. I'm not going to make this a full half an hour like I did last week. I kept talking. But if you have questions, if you're struggling with any of this, if I've said anything that has kind of touched a nerve and you've like, wow, yeah, maybe that's me, feel free to PM me, right? Email me, PM me. I am happy to talk to you. You know, again, sales. I don't have the relationship with sales like that. It has to be a hard process. If you just want a conversation with me, I'm happy to just have a conversation with you. I promise I'm not going to try to pitch something to you that you don't want or need. So PM me, email me, reach out. Let's have that conversation. Let's get the clarity around where you are in your business, where you are working in your business, and how to help you up level those skills. All right. Thanks, everybody. See you next week for Tea Time with Jenell. Bye.